How far are you willing to go? The drive, the sweat, the blood, the tears, your determination through the pain and all the suffering, people overlooking you, telling you that you're not good enough. You have to believe that you're great. And with you believing that you're great, anything you want to do, you can achieve. No one can stop you. Only you can stop yourself. Keep driving. Keep uplifting yourself. Keep going. Keep going. Nothing, and no one can stop you. That goal you want, you can achieve it. How you inspire people is going to be up to you. Keep going. Never give up. Never give up.
What's going on? What's going on? It's your boy Connie. And we're here once again on 910 Sports TV. You know what I'm saying? First and foremost, I want to thank God for this opportunity because without him, it would be no us to be able to have this great platform, to have great people. Next, I want to introduce my right hand man, you know what I'm saying? Cowboys and Clemson biggest fan. You know what I'm saying? So it's been a struggle for both of us because I'm a Washington Commanders fan. So it's been a struggle in Miami, kind of hurt my feelings last night. Miami Hurricanes. But anyway, we're gonna keep it moving and keep doing what we do. So what's going on, bro? What's going on, brother Jacob?
Nothing much, man. Ready to get into this great interview, man. Another blessed day, another fabulous episode that we about to have, man, and with another phenomenal coach that's mentoring and shaping young men into productive citizens of society.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into it. Go ahead and introduce this coach so we can get this thing started.
I'm gonna let the coach the privilege of introducing himself. So, coach, tell the audience who you are.
My voice is gone, so everybody forgive me from our game last night. But my name is Donnie Keifer. I'm currently the head football coach at Central Cabarrus High School in Concord, North Carolina. Been doing this a long time. I'm currently the second leading winning coach in North Carolina of active coaches. So I coached in North Carolina for 31 years, then I retired and went to South Carolina for 8. Won a couple state championships down there, and now I'm back at my alma mater for the second tenure.
Okay. Wow, coach, that's pretty impressive, man. You've been coaching a very long time.
Yep.
So, coach, the question is, what inspired you and motivated you to want to become a coach?
To be honest, my middle school coach who coached us in everything, he coached us in football, baseball, and basketball. And I really looked up to him because I started playing organized sports, all three, football, baseball, basketball, when I was like 6 years old. And so I had a real passion for it right from the beginning. And then when I got to middle school, having a real coach, not just youth league coaches through the years, one guy coaching us and mentoring us and, teaching us how to be men. I knew by the time I was 13 years old that I wanted to be a football coach.
Okay, coach. So, from you've been coaching a very long time. So, how has the aspect of coaching changed? You know, as far as every type of sport. You know what I mean? Especially
Right.
football.
Right. Well, the mentality is a little bit different. You know, it's not the same as when I played, probably not the same as when you guys played. The outlook, the passion sometimes. I'm not one of those coaches that feel like, oh, kids just aren't as tough as we were, that kind of thing. But the reality is they look at it from a completely different perspective. And as you guys know, I mean, now with, even at the high school level, kids will transfer out in a heartbeat, just like at the college level. They go somewhere, they don't like their playing time. They don't necessarily like their position coach or their head coach. They can just move away. There's not that real commitment like we had back in my day where you played sports with your friends and you wanted to make your team better. You weren't looking to leave and bail on everybody. So, that's one aspect of it. And then the other aspect is, which you guys know, is that there's so much to take the attention away from sports. Kids have so much to do these days. And I know that's not brand new, but it's a whole different scenario trying to keep people committed in the weight room, doing everything they're supposed to do to get better. Everything nowadays is a lot more about social media than it is about, just really developing as a player.
Okay. Jacob, you there? I say must have fell off for a second. Must have difficulty. So let me ask you a question because you're probably the first club coach that we've had that actually brought this up without us asking. When you talk about the transfer of the kids, so in high school level, kind of explain how that works because back in the day we was in school, you had to play within your district or your area. You couldn't just go to another school unless you had some kind of waiver or scholarship or something of that nature. So
Right.
kind of explain how that works.
Okay. Well, I just left South Carolina. I went down there for 8 years, and it was
Hold on, Jay, get some feedback.
yeah, it's breaking up.
It's good
Okay.
now.
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, coach.
Okay.
Sorry.
So in South Carolina, beginning this year, actually last spring, they have a one-time transfer free of any kind of commitment. So you can go to any high school you want to in South Carolina one time. You can't do, transfer again and again and again like that. But you don't have to live in that school district. You don't have any kind of like in North Carolina, if you transfer like in the middle of a school year or something like that, you have to sit out 365 days, that kind of deal. But down there, they can transfer anytime they want to. But people have been getting around that for a long time because, especially, number one, if you're not a homeowner, then all you got to do is go rent another place in a different district. So that's easy. If you are a homeowner, and I've known people to do this through the years, they'll go and rent a home in another district and live there 2 or 3 days out of the week so they can claim that as their home address and they can move their child legitimately. I say that with air quotes, but so there's different ways that people can get around it, and it makes it tough on coaches today because I'm not the type, because I'm from the old school. Obviously, I'm not the type that's always going to try to appease somebody and always try to make them, that you want to be here, you don't want to be anywhere else. I want them to be committed. I want them to be willing to develop as men as well as players. And I know for you guys, this is a ministry. I've always felt like coaching for me is my ministry, and I take it very seriously. Obviously, I like winning. Like I said, I'm close to 300 wins now, and that's one of my goals. And I've got some state championships, but that's not nearly as important as helping young men go on and be something, become somebody, and teach them how to live their lives the way that will be pleasing to them and the way that will make them successful. And I think just jumping around, wherever the grass is greener, I don't think that teaches any good lessons whatsoever.
Okay, before I throw it back to Jacob real quick, I want to do a follow up on that. So what's the number one or the maybe one or two reasons why you seen the kids transfer? What's their excuse or reasoning for transferring?
Well, praise the Lord, I've not had any transfer out for me, but I see it in other schools in both states that I've been in, and I don't know that there ever is a good reason. Like when I left the last school I was at in South Carolina to come back to North Carolina, I know two of the players that played for me there went to another school, to a rival school, and I'm not real sure why. I wasn't coming back, so they didn't give me any real reason, But I don't know why it is. I think it's just grass is greener on the other side. I'm not sure, or maybe they think the opportunities are better elsewhere. And I've coached college football, so I know that if you and this is cliche, and some people say it's not true, but it is. If you can play, they're going to find you. Somebody's going to get your name out there. Sometimes it's your own coach. Sometimes it's an opposing coach. Sometimes it's an alumni, from some university or college that lives in that district. But I've seen so many times that kids were at bad schools where they weren't winning and still got Division I scholarships. So, I just believe in hanging in there and playing where you're supposed to be in your own community.
Okay, go ahead. You jump back in, Jacob.
Okay, so you coached in both states.
You're right.
Do you think there's any difference between coaching in North Carolina and South Carolina?
In some parts, there is. First of all, there's twice as many football playing schools in North Carolina as there are in South Carolina. So that's one thing. And in the upstate, which is, the upper part of South Carolina, the facilities are tremendous. Maybe not the level of Texas, but there's some great stadiums, great weight rooms, great athletic facilities all around. And they're pocketed throughout the state of South Carolina as well. You don't really have that in North Carolina, where there's no schools that I can think of, and most of my career has been in North Carolina. I couldn't point you to one school and say this school is the elite with, and not necessarily athletes. I'm talking about facilities wise, because everybody's kind of on a even keel. Obviously, the bigger schools have nicer stadiums and that kind of thing, but there's no just extravagantly nice facilities in North Carolina like there are in South Carolina.
Yeah, so you talking about the upstate like Spartanburg, Anderson, Greenville, Gaffney,
Right,
places like that.
right,
Where
absolutely,
them facilities look almost like college
absolutely.
facilities.
Right, like
So
when I
yeah,
coached in,
so
I coached. I'm sorry. I coached in the
go
Shrine
ahead.
Bowl in 2005, and so our Shrine Bowl practices were held at Dorman High School, and
Wow,
we played the game at Wofford. So without a doubt, Dorman was a better facility than Wofford was, and Wofford Stadium was built by the Panthers, Carolina Panthers.
right, right.
So
Yeah,
huge, huge
that's
difference.
crazy, man.
Mhm.
That's crazy. So, coach, now being that you've been around the game so long, what do you look for in other coaches when you're building your coaching staff?
Really, really somebody with commitment, way less so than knowledge. Because one thing that I've known over the years, first of all, I've been doing this for a long time, but I am still very much a student of the game. Even having won almost 300 games, winning state championships, all that, I still don't feel like I know everything. I'm going to try to stay on the cutting edge of everything that's new, everything that's going on. I'm going to be a researcher and all of that. That's what I'm looking for in assistant coaches, people who are willing to put in the work. Sometimes when you hire coaches that have been coaching for 10 years, 15 years, 12 years, whatever, they know what they know, but they don't know what they don't know. And a lot of times they're not willing to learn. And that can be a big detriment. I would rather bring a guy in that has passion for the game and be a clean slate rather than constantly talking about, well, this is how we do it. This is how we've always done it. This is how we used to do it. I'd rather have somebody just wanting to come in and learn because I'm going to be continually learning, and somebody who's willing to be committed. And beyond that, somebody who's willing to do the little things, the unheralded things, who's willing to go out there and paint the field on a Saturday afternoon, who's willing to come in after a game on Friday night, the next morning, come in Saturday morning and do the laundry, those kind of things. It's not about just X's and O's. Anybody can draw X's and O's. I want guys who are willing to do all the little things. And beyond that, I want guys that are going to be able to build great relationships with the kids because that's where you win or lose.
Okay. You're most definitely right. As far as the parent and coach relationship, what has been the biggest challenges with really dealing with parents and trying to get them to see things from a coach's perspective, where they really understand what's going on with the student athlete, and just give them that balance.
Right. Well, it's difficult, especially these days, because I remember when I was coming up. Of course, I'm old now, but when I was coming up, I mean, my parents were all about you better listen to your coach. You do exactly what he tells you to do. Don't ever disrespect the coach. That kind of thing. That's the way I was brought up. Nowadays, kids will question things. Yeah, that's why when you coach nowadays, you better know your stuff because you're not bull jiving anybody. And I tell our kids anyway, I'm never going to try to coach you one by intimidation. You're never going to hear me tell you to do something because I said so. I'm going to make sure that you know why you're doing what you're doing and how that fits the big picture. that kind of thing. But going back to your question, a lot of parents these days, and this is probably not new, but just parents just weren't as overly helicopterish, I guess you would say, back in the day. Nowadays, parents want to be involved in every little thing, and they want to question things, and they always think their child is better than he really is. Where if they would let him develop and not try to intervene and do all that kind of stuff, the child would develop much more. And it's just one of those things where, and social media has done this, and you guys know that. You listen to any talk show on the radio, what are they doing? They're cutting down the coaches. They're cutting down the calls. They're cutting down the strategy. Everything's negative. I don't even like to listen to a football radio show. And these are supposed to be homers. So that's the kind of rhetoric that's out there, is to second guess everything, to question everything, instead of letting the kids develop, respect their coaches, believe in them, and that kind of thing. So to me, that's the biggest issue with the parents. And ironically, I had a parent come and talk to me the other day, and his grandson was a grandfather. His grandson is a pretty good player and could be a great player, but he doesn't work hard. And the parent or grandparent wanted to come and tell me, "Hey, he's an elite athlete." And I just kind of said, he has the potential to be an elite athlete, but he's got a long ways to go. I've coached elite athletes, and he doesn't have the work ethic yet to be called an elite athlete. If he will do what we ask him to do, he'll get there. He'll get opportunities to play in college and that kind of thing. So, it's just like everybody wanting to arrive before time is really there.
Okay, okay, okay. And with and with that being said, how many kids normally try out for your team?
We usually, it depends on the school. Like when I was at West Ashley and South Carolina, we had when I went there, by the way, the winning percentage was like 21% for the history of the school. It was awful. And we were able to leave there with like a 27-21 record, which for there was a big deal, because we were in the conference with Somerville and people like that. We beat Somerville twice, that kind of deal. But there, it was a 5A school. So we had, I was over the B team, which was junior high, basically 7th and 8th graders, JV and varsity. So in that program, we had about 180 total. The school I'm at now in North Carolina, it's a 6A school, but it's not nearly, how classifications are different in different states. The numbers are different. So we have about, I guess we have somewhere around 1,400 students, and we're 6A. So we have about 40 JV, 40 varsity. That's about the numbers year in and year out.
Okay, 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 okay. And so when it when it really comes to the kids trying out for you, and cause a lot of kids, a kid will grow 5 inches in one summer,
Mm-hmm.
and then their whole position has to change.
Right.
And so when a kid position has to change, man, what's that process for you placing them at that new position?
Well, the first thing we do is tell them that, first of all, we're going to put them in a position to be successful. We allow them, first of all, to tell us, what do you want to play? What have you played growing up, youth ball, whatever? What is your position? And then we let them know, we're going to look at you at the position you want to play. If we feel like you can help yourself and the team more somewhere else, then we're going to make that change. And so they come in knowing that they have the opportunity to try to play something. And if that doesn't work out, we're going to help them find the right spot for them. One thing we do is that we don't cut. And I never have throughout my whole career, no matter how many or how few players we've had. A player would have to cut himself, or the sport be dangerous for them. If it was a kid who couldn't protect himself, or he was just too small and it was dangerous for him, or the kid was like very passive and didn't know how to take a hit or deliver a hit, we might talk to him about maybe, hey, this might not be for you. We'd like to keep you in the program. Maybe you can be a team manager until you grow into your body a little bit, get a little more mature, get in the weight room, get a little bigger, and then maybe try again next year.
Okay, okay. I come over you.
Okay, so Coach, let me ask you a question, because
like I told you before the interview started, we've had a few Hall of Fame coaches on, and you got a very successful record. You got almost 300 wins, 2 state championships. So, coaches, just tell me this: what keeps you in high school? Because you pretty much accomplished everything. So, in the mind of a coach, you Hall of Fame coaches, what
Mhm.
keeps you in high school? Because a lot of coaches, aspire to be on the college or the pro level. So, what keeps you there?
Right. Well, I coached college football for a little while before I became a head high school coach, and I wanted to try it. I had a passion for football, wanted to do all that, but the big thing was like back in the day that I was doing it, there were no rules. So we were on the road all the time, recruiting all the time. It wasn't unusual to maybe fly out on a Monday afternoon in the off season and fly back in Saturday morning and be gone. And I had 3 small children. So my wife was pretty much raising the kids. So that was the main motivator. I wanted to be in their lives. I didn't want to be an absentee father. I wanted to be there and not put it all on her. And so that's why I said, well, I need to look into being a high school head coach because I'm going to be putting in still probably the same amount of hours, but I'm going to be in the same town every night. I'm not going to be flying all over the country and that kind of thing. And
Okay, so
I'm sorry.
okay, go ahead, finish up.
Oh, I was going to say the other thing is like I just feel like you have so much more impact on kids when you're getting them as a 14-year-old and you get to shape them from the time they're 14 to 18. When you're coaching college, I mean, it's a business. We all know that. And they come in and it's all about business. And you're not really speaking into their lives and in many ways the same way you can with a young kid when he's still in his formative years, that kind of thing. So I just feel like it has more impact. Like I said, I see my job as in my career as a ministry. And, I feel like that's what I'm called to do.
Well, it's funny because the coach last week he said the one thing how you'll know how good of a coach you are and how impact you have on these kids is how many weddings and celebratory things that you get invited to once they leave.
Absolutely.
so, but I'm gonna ask you this. So, and Jacob probably can attest to this too. This year we've seen a lot of bonehead situations, even on the pro level. We've seen back to back weekends where a player run into the end zone, dropped the ball right at the one, and got it called back for a touchback. We seen Jalen Carter with the Jalen Carter first game of the season spit on Dak Prescott.
Right.
We seen I forgot the player last week made some. I forgot the thing he did, got suspended by his team, um, or whatever. So we've seen all these bonehead plays over the last few weeks of this in this season. So for you, when your player get a personal foul, or if they get, what's the difference between a personal foul from them being aggressive or just playing hard and they just make a mistake, and making a bonehead mistake that just basically you just like, what was you thinking type mistake?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to us, that's just unacceptable. And showboating, trash talking, trying to bring attention to yourself all the time, even if they're not getting penalized for it. I just don't tolerate that. I hate that. I want you to play like you've been there before. Everything is not all about you. It's still a team sport at the end of the day. We're going to celebrate you as a good player, and you should be celebrated, but it's always going to be team first. We're not going to tolerate anything that brings shame to the team or brings humiliation to the team or puts us in a bad light to look like, those guys are trash, man. They play dirty. They do this, they do that. I never want one of my teams to be looked at that way.
Okay, so what is your punishment? Is it laps in the next practice? Is it what is usually what some of your couple of your go to punishments?
Well, it can be anything. It can be anything from gassers to, you know, multiple mini up downs to being suspended. I've suspended kids for a quarter. I've suspended kids for a half. I've suspended them for a game. So just, all depends on the severity of it and, what was the circumstances, all that kind of stuff. One thing that kids always want to say is, well, he did this to me. That guy from the other team, he punched me at the bottom of the pile, or he called me a name, or something like that, or he came up and pushed me. And I've always just said, forget that. You got on equipment. Somebody punches you or hits you, all they're going to do is break their hand if they hit you in the face mask. Just walk away. Don't be part of it because you're going to get ejected just like they are.
All right. So what's been the worst thing the kid ever did in game that you had to suspend them for a game or quarter? What's the worst egregious situation that's ever happened?
I think the same school that I won the state championships at, um, we had some kids got in a scuffle on the field, were fighting, and then some more tried to run onto the field. And, of course, we're trying to keep them back because if you empty the bench, you can get kicked out of the playoffs or anything else. So, we're like getting back, get back, get back. And I had a couple or three or four guys actually that just weren't listening to the coaches, were struggling to get away, try to get on the field. So we suspended all of them for the rest of the year. And, and they were good players. They were,
Yeah.
they were producers. They were our best offensive guys.
Okay. Okay. So basically, going back to your championship days, those 2 years, what did you learn the most as far as your coaching and your ability to coach and to be able to have a 2 year reign? What did you learn most about yourself as a coach?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had been really close 5 times in North Carolina before I ever went to South Carolina to either the Eastern or Western finals, which was one game away from state championship. Some of those were real close losses, like 13-12. And, just so we were right on the precipice several times. The biggest thing I learned, I think, at that particular school was one year, the first year that we won the state championship, they had never won anything. And my whole career has been going into programs that are down and turning them around. And God has blessed me with the ability to be able to do that pretty quickly. And so that was another school that had never won anything. There's a rural, not a lot of, Division I athletes, that kind of thing, but they had a lot of heart and wanted to win, that kind of deal. So that year there was some hurricanes, through South Carolina and Eastern North Carolina, a lot of flooding and all that kind of stuff. Not too far from where you're from, because all through Lumberton and all down that way, it flooded all the way down into South Carolina. We couldn't go to school for like 15 days. And, we were doing pretty good. We were rolling along, but we couldn't go to school, couldn't practice, couldn't do anything. So when we came back from that, we had to play a game in 4 days. And when our kids came back, they were so hungry and rejuvenated and fresh and ready to go. And we just took off and made a run at one state championship, which nobody saw coming. Nobody would have predicted that. But what that told me was, more is not better. As coaches, we always feel like got to practice every second, every day, can't miss anything, got to do more and more and more and more. And here these kids took 2 weeks off and came back better than ever. And that sent a huge message to me about, you got to be willing to pull back, because, those kids are putting forth a lot of energy and effort. And they're also teenagers. They also have families. They also have other interests, and we're just, as coaches, we're just push, 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 push. And what they really need, I think, is a little break now and then. So that was hard for me to swallow, because I'd been that go-get guy forever, but it worked.
Okay, I'm gonna ask one more question. I'm throw it back to Jacob. So
Okay.
I got to ask you this, Coach.
Okay.
What's that game or that season? Because you can win as much as you want, but everybody say you remember them losses more than you remember them wins.
Right.
So what's that game or that season that kept you that have been haunting you for years?
Right. Well, actually, two of those semifinal losses. We played when I was at Tuscola High School up in the mountains of North Carolina. That was another program who was down, but they had a history. They were good. That's the school I was telling you about when we were talking about Pinecrest. That I took that job instead of the Pinecrest job. But anyway, so my second year there, we went to the Western Finals to play West Rowan, and West Rowan was a program that was really rocking at the time. Had several D1 athletes, that kind of deal. And we played them in that Western Finals game, had a chance to win the game and drop the snap. We were down around the, I think, 10, 12-yard line, about to go in and score, and drop the snap, and they recovered it, and we ended up losing by 8, I think, something like that. But that one still haunts me, because we could have finished that drive, we'd have won the game.
Oh, okay, okay. Now, I'm gonna ask you this, and I'm gonna get back to Jacob. And I always wonder about kids and players' mindset when your player drop that ball like that. to this day, does it still have an effect on him, as or far as or was he able to kind of move on in life after that?
Yeah, he did well because he went to NC State as a quarterback, and then he played baseball in the Braves organization. Tremendous athlete, tremendous person. I'm sure it still haunts him. I'm sure he still thinks about it, but it didn't destroy him. Some kids that would have destroyed him. They would have been ready to hang it up and be done forever. But it was tough. It was tough on everybody. But that's just one where you think, wow, we could have done that. Could have gotten there.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jacob.
All right, coach. So let's talk about X's and O's.
Okay.
Are you a defensive guy or offensive guy?
I am both and have been forever. So that's one thing that a lot of people are surprised by me when they get to know me. I can coach any position on either side of the ball. I can call, game plan, anything on both sides of the ball. I've been that way forever. Like I said, I'm a researcher. There's nothing that I'm not going to dive into 100%. Like I said, I've been the head coach in 2 national all-star games and ran the offense, and as well as being the head coach, and won both of those with big margins. Also was the defensive coordinator for North Carolina in the Shrine Bowl, and won that. So I've just been that way just forever. I like both sides of the ball. I understand both sides of the ball. I like the challenge of scheming against the other side. And I've always taught, like I always tell assistant coaches when they tell me, hey, I'd like to be a head coach someday. And the first thing I tell them in South Carolina, they have a under 35 and under coaches group. And I've spoke to that group before and about becoming a head coach and how to do it and all that. And one thing that I always tell everybody is you better know both sides of the ball, because if you only know offense and you get that head coaching job and you have to go hire a defensive coordinator and it's going to be his defense, then your career is now in his hands. And that's the same way on the other side of the ball. So I just think it's vital that you know both sides of the ball. And the more offense you know, and I would dare say there's very few offenses out there that I haven't run at some point or had to defend at some point. So the more you know about every offensive scheme, the better defensive coach you're going to be, and vice versa.
Okay, so what are your favorite 3 offense
I like
formations?
I like spread to run, and I like 12 personnel stuff. I like using 2 tight ends, either attached or detached, with multiple, multiple formations, that kind of thing out of that same 12 personnel. That gives a defense a really tough time. And that's one thing that kind of drives me as an offensive coach is I look at it from the defensive perspective, and I'm like, okay, what do I not want to see? What is the toughest thing to defend if we're in this defense or that defense? And so that's the biggest thing, is just kind of knowing how to attack. So that 12 personnel with two attached tight ends, all of that's hard to defend. I also like some shotgun wing T stuff because wing T is tough to defend in itself. Back in the old days, I ran a lot of wing T under center, so it was good. I also grew up in the single wing. I was a tailback in the single wing back in the 70s, and that was a lot of fun. So those 2 I would say, and then I also like triple option stuff. I like flex ball and all that kind of stuff if you've got the right people to run it. What I haven't been, like the kid I was telling you about, that the quarterback you asked me about dropping the ball, did it affect him? He when I had him, he passed for 4,000 yards in the same offense. But I've never been what you would call an air raid guy, going to throw it every down, throw it 60 times a game, that kind of deal. But I do understand that offense as well.
Hey, Jacob,
Okay, so
before you answer that question, and you probably agree with me on this one, I've never understood why more teams haven't used the 2 tight end set, because if you remember when Aaron Hernandez and Gronk was with the Patriots, they were unstoppable.
Right.
And I've just never understood why, if you could get you 2 dynamic tight ends like that, because that tight end position is the hardest to defend, especially if you have decent wide receivers, because now you can't put your best corners on those tight ends. You're going to have to put a slot, or you're going to even a linebacker will end up on those tight ends. So I never understood while more teams don't go to that two tight end set. But yeah, but go ahead, Jacob.
Well, it's crazy you said that, because my favorite formation is that double set tight end, man. Is like you said, when it comes to if you got two solid tight ends and you got solid receivers and you have that rotating backfield, maybe like a three rotation backfield, you are going to be very hard to stop. And so, like you said, I don't think a lot of people pay attention, but that's unstoppable. And and so, coach, now we're gonna go to the defensive side of the ball.
Okay.
Now, I tell people all the time, the baddest man on the defensive side of the ball to me is a nose guard that knows what he's doing.
Right.
And so, with that being said, what is your favorite three defensive formations?
Well, my favorite defensive front and schematics is a 4-3, like a Miami 4-3. But unfortunately, with all the stuff we see these days, it's way harder to adjust to everything out of a 4-3. The thing I like about a 4-3 is that everybody's up front. It's an outside shade. You got a one technique nose, a three technique defensive tackle, and 2-5 techniques or a 9 technique defensive end. So everybody's defensive fundamentals are exactly the same. You're going to squeeze a down block, don't get reached, and get in a pass mode when you get a pass set. So you can interchange those guys, which is one good thing. But the entire defense is based off of cloudy clear reads. Like you've got your two adjacent defensive linemen, and then you got a linebacker. You got three linebackers. Each of them are reading cloudy clear, which just means it opens or it's nothing. So they're either scraping or plugging on every play, and you've always got a backside cutback guy. So if you're playing a zone team or somebody's going to run like quarterback counter, that kind of thing, you've always got a cutback guy, and you're too high in the secondary. So it's not like you're going to get hit with seams and that kind of thing. So that's my favorite. But lately, in the last 5 to 6 years, because of all the multiple formations and motions and empty sets that everybody does on a regular basis now, we've been more of a multiple odd front, more 3-4, that kind of thing. We'll get into a little bit of the Iowa State three safety stuff where you got corners down and three safeties up top.
Mhm.
And we like that a little bit too, just as a change up to, kind of cause confusion on the defensive front. I
Okay,
mean, on the
okay,
offense.
okay, okay. I come back to you, man.
Yeah, because I was gonna say it's hard. I forgot that I was watching the game last week, and they said it's. I think it's the Baltimore. I think is the only team that really uses like three linebackers for the most part throughout the game. And like you said, you either have to have that extra safety in there or whatever to go for that to be actually the kind of players that third linebacker because of the spread formations and extra weapons on the field that the offense has. So you
Right.
can't necessarily go with that, especially if you don't have speed linebackers, fast enough linebackers, you get burnt all day on the field. So
No
you
doubt.
definitely have to go with that third safety or whatever to be able to make up for it or whatever. So even a lot of teams go more 3-4 and they end up getting killed on the running game. You know
Right.
what I mean? Because they're going with that 3-4, especially if they don't have have a nose tackle like Jacob was saying that can plug up that middle, or those ends are more focused on trying to get to the quarterback every time.
Right.
I think that's what. And not to be funny, I'm not picking on y'all, but that's Dallas' been issue because they're fast, but they're not big. So if they get out of position, that's what hurts them because they're more focused on speed and not size and bulk like maybe like how Tampa has big boy up in the middle Vita Vale, I mean things of that nature. So basically coach at this point, you saying you won a couple of championships. Uh, you're going for that 300. What's end up like at the end of the day, like your ultimate goal, like your ultimate thing that you kind of that pushes you every day to be for your programs and what you like to see? Is it more of the or is it more the graduation rate? Is it in I know it's a graduation rate, but on the field, what's like the things that you kind of focus on to keep the train running?
Yeah. It's kind of a, a combination of things. My biggest driver is to do right by the kids. I want them to have a great experience. I want them to learn how to be winners in life, not just winners on the field. And I think that's what drives me the most, because I like the relationships with the kids. And I'm the kind of coach, like, I'm not buddy, but I'm very friendly with them, and very,
Mhm.
like, we have great relationships, but it's never going to be a situation where I'm turning my head the other way if they're not doing the right thing. I'm going to coach them hard. We don't allow any profanity in our program whatsoever. That's coaches, players, everybody. We're going to talk to you like an adult and respect you, but we're going to demand that same respect in return. And I've found over the years that if you treat kids with respect and you're not trying to humiliate them, intimidate them, talk down to them, they're going to respect you. They can't help but respect you back. They're not going to, just like we know in the home, kids they're going to mirror what they're around all the time. If they're in a family where their mom and dad are cussing them out all the time and yelling at them all the time, that's who they're going to be, because it's a learned response. If you can treat people with respect, like we do in our program, then they're going to be respectful in turn. And that doesn't mean that no kid's ever going to show disrespect or have an attitude or something like that. But for the most part, we just don't have that. We have good kids that know how to turn it on and off, and they can be brutal on the field, but they can be gentlemen when they're not on the field.
Okay, so I got one last question. I know the coach that was on here last week. He had one rival school. I can't remember the school, but he had one rival school that he said that he had hard time beating. So
Mm.
what's your thorn in your side school that either you haven't beaten as much or hadn't beaten at all yet?
Um, I don't really have one that I can think of that we just haven't had success against ever. It might not be every year, but pretty much we've been able to, hold our own. And like I said, Summerville in South Carolina, they're a storied program. John McKissick was there and won over 600 games, the most in the nation, that kind of thing. And they're always a powerhouse. And, we beat them when we were at the school that I was at in Charleston. We didn't have those kind of athletes. We didn't have that kind of coaching staff, that kind of facilities and stuff. But because of what we instilled in our kids, we were able to beat them. So, but there's nobody that I can think of that I can just say, wow, we just can't get over the hump with them. So,
Okay. Oh, okay. One more question.
okay.
Who's been the biggest star to ever come out of any of your programs?
Um, Gosh, that's tough. I'd say probably Tremaine Goddard. He's like
Okay.
Tremaine's like a third son to me, and we just talked the other day. He's getting married, and he called me excited to tell me about it. And but Tremaine played at University of North Carolina and was a
Okay.
three-time All-American, All ACC multiple times, National Player of the Year. I mean, National Player of the Week on several occasions, that kind of thing.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Coach, giving us your time. I know this is the time of the season where you're a very busy man. So you're probably going over the X's and O's with your coaches and all kind of scheming and whatever y'all got to get ready for the week.
Yeah,
Your
Yeah.
meal plans, your game plans, and all that
right,
kind of good stuff.
right.
So I appreciate you giving us your time and effort. Did y'all play last night?
We did. We won 34-15 last night. So,
Okay, cool, cool.
Okay,
So
man. Congrats.
congratulations on that.
Congratulations.
thank you.
And what's your record right now?
Not good. You shouldn't ask me that. We're 3-5 right now. So,
Okay. Oh well, you'll
probably,
turn it around. You
yeah,
one of the great ones, so you'll turn it around.
I appreciate it.
You
We
know.
we uh we legitimately could be 7-1 easily right now. We lost one in overtime. We lost one with a minute to go. We lost one with 55 seconds to go. And just, one of those years. This team, and this is my alma mater, by the way, and this is my second stint here. So they've been 3-7 for 5 years in a row. So they're having to learn how to win these close games. So,
Yeah.
we'll get there. We'll get there, but we're not where we want to be yet.
Well, I don't know about as a coach, but I know as a fan, when my team loses a close game, I almost be like, man, I'd rather y'all got beaten by 30. At least I know the team was just flat out better. You know what
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
But anyway, I appreciate you coming on. And is anything
sure.
that we can do to be support system to y'all or whatever, you can always send other coaches, players that you would like to be interviewed by us or whatever.
Okay.
If anything else you need as far as like resources and things of that nature, you know,
Right.
we may be able to assist on those things too, because we know different programs and, you know, academic academies and different people that work with
Right.
kids and stuff, especially the
Okay.
ones that have issues to getting into to colleges and things of that
Okay.
nature. So
Right.
yeah, so I appreciate you coming on and giving us your time. And you can just tell us where, you know, where they can find you if you want to go send them to the website or anything for the games or things coming up.
Right. Well, it's just Central Cabarrus football on Twitter and on Instagram and all that. It's easy to find. We're in Concord, North Carolina. So uh, appreciate you guys having me on. Appreciate you inviting me. And if
Oh,
I can
no
ever
Yes,
do
sir.
problem.
anything,
Anytime.
let me know.
All right. Thank you, sir. You have a good and blessed night.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.